High Commander Zexlar stood on the bridge of the Nightweaver, his flagship's holoscreens reflecting off his obsidian scales as they displayed the human colony below. His mandibles clicked in amusement as he watched the primitive defenses of Nova Haven, humanity's newest frontier settlement. These humans, barely a century into space travel, would provide an excellent lesson to the galaxy about the consequences of expanding into Void Stalker territory. "Begin the operation," he commanded, his voice resonating through the neural network connecting his crew. The Void Stalkers had evolved beyond primitive vocal communication millennia ago, but they maintained it for dealing with lesser species. Remember, take only the young. Their emotional attachment to their offspring will make them excellent bargaining chips. The raid was precisely executed. Quantum-shifted strike teams materialized inside Nova Haven's school complex during their afternoon recreation period. The human children, so vulnerable in their designated play areas, never saw their captors coming. 43 young humans were teleported away before the colony's outdated sensors could even detect a threat. Commander Jasmine Wright was reviewing settlement expansion plans when the alarms finally sounded. Her brown eyes narrowed as she processed the incoming data, years of military training kicking in before the parent in her could react. "Status report," she barked, her command center's AI bringing up multiple surveillance feeds. 43 children taken, Commander," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers flying over the holoscreen. "No casualties, but our sensors failed to detect the incursion until it was over." He hesitated. "They have Lily, ma'am. Your daughter was among those taken." Jasmine's face remained impassive, but her hands clenched the edge of her command console. The aliens didn't know it, but they had just made the worst mistake in their species' history. "Initialize protocol Hammerfall," she ordered, her voice steady. "And get me a direct line to Fleet Admiral Harrison." Across the colony, parents received the news, but these weren't ordinary colonists. Nova Haven was humanity's newest military research outpost, disguised as a civilian settlement. Every parent there was a veteran, scientist, or special operations officer. Every child had been trained since they could walk for the possibility of this exact scenario. In orbit, Zexlar received the first ransom transmission. The human commander's face appeared on his screen, showing what he interpreted as appropriate distress. "Please," Jasmine pleaded, her performance perfect. "Name your price. We'll pay anything." 10 million Federation credits for each child, Zexlar announced smugly, to be delivered within 3 standard rotations. Any attempted rescue will result in unfortunate consequences. The transmission ended, and Zexlar turned to his subordinate, Vexthor. "Prepare for departure. Once we're back in the Crimson Void, we'll begin negotiations in earnest." His species equivalent of a smile crossed his features. These humans are so predictable. Their emotional weaknesses make them perfect targets. Deep within the Nightweaver, 14-year-old Lily Wright sat among the other children in their holding cell, her face tear-stained but her eyes alert. The Void Stalkers hadn't bothered to search them thoroughly, assuming human children wouldn't be carrying anything dangerous. They hadn't noticed the quantum transmitter embedded in her tooth or the nanite colony swimming through her bloodstream. As the alien ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Lily caught the eyes of the other children. They all knew their roles. Operation Trojan Horse was about to begin, and their captors would soon learn why every spacefaring species in the known galaxy had one universal rule: never, ever take human children. Meanwhile, in the depths of Earth's military command, Fleet Admiral Harrison reviewed Nova Haven's transmission. The message wasn't a distress call. It was a trigger. Across human space, black sites went active. Ships that officially didn't exist emerged from hidden docks. Soldiers using technology humanity had kept secret for decades began boarding specialized stealth vessels. The Void Stalkers thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. They were about to discover that humanity's apparent technological level was the greatest deception in galactic history, maintained for exactly this type of situation. All Shadow Fleet vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Harrison. The transmission went out on quantum channels the aliens didn't know existed. Operation Nemesis is now active. Weapons free. No mercy. The hunt was about to begin. The Nightweaver's holding cells hummed with energy fields that the Void Stalkers considered impenetrable. Deep in the ship's secure sector, Lily Wright carefully observed their captors through half-closed eyes, noting their patrol patterns and behavior. The alien guards walked past their cells every 15 minutes, mandibles clicking in what she recognized as their form of communication. "Status check," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible to her fellow captives. The quantum transmitter in her tooth vibrated slightly as it picked up her subvocal commands. Around her, other children responded with subtle hand signals, training protocols they had practiced monthly since they could walk. Marcus Bennett, age 12, had already mapped the ship's ventilation system using the microscopic drones released from his seemingly ordinary asthma inhaler. 10-year-old twins Jamie and Jordan Parker had been systematically testing the energy field's frequency with their neural implants, their apparent crying fits masking the scanning process. The Void Stalkers had made 3 critical mistakes. First, they assumed human children were merely helpless offspring. Second, they hadn't bothered to scan for technology more advanced than their own. And third, they believed their neural network was secure. In the cell block's monitoring station, Guard Captain Krelvor watched the surveillance feeds with growing boredom. The human younglings were behaving exactly as expected, some crying, others sleeping, a few staring blankly at the walls. Their emotional distress was palpable and satisfying. What Krelvor couldn't see was the nanite swarm spreading through the ship's systems, released from the children's seemingly innocuous tears. Each microscopic robot carried a fragment of the most sophisticated AI ever created by humanity, gradually assembling itself within the alien vessel's computer core. "Ship structural analysis complete," Marcus whispered during their next meal period, pretending to sob into his food. "Their hull is strongest at the expected points, but there's a weakness near the quantum drive housing." Lily nodded imperceptibly. "Time estimate. Parent fleet will be in position within 12 hours. 13-year-old Rhea Patul responded, her fingers tapping out a coded message on her food tray. "The AI is almost fully assembled. We should have control of their internal systems in 3 hours." Meanwhile, in the ship's command center, High Commander Zexlar was growing increasingly confident. The human colony's desperate pleas for negotiation only reinforced his species' superiority. He had even begun drafting a report to the Void Stalker High Council, recommending the systematic exploitation of human settlements. The ship's quantum drive engaged, carrying them deeper into what they considered safe territory. The Crimson Void, a massive nebula that had sheltered their species for millennia, loomed ahead. Its radiation and gravitational distortions would make any pursuit impossible, or so they thought. What they didn't know was that every tear, every drop of sweat, every exhaled breath from their young captives was saturated with quantum-tagged biomarkers. The children were leaving a trail that humanity's most advanced ships could follow through dimensions the Void Stalkers didn't know existed. In her cell, Lily accessed her neural implant's secure memory, reviewing the emergency protocols that had been imprinted since childhood. Every human colony child underwent this training, disguised as games and stories. They were taught how to gather intelligence, how to resist interrogation, and most importantly, how to act as forward operators for humanity's true military capabilities. Remember, her mother had told her during one training session, "If you're ever taken, you're not victims. You're the trap." The children maintained their facade of helplessness as the ship entered the Crimson Void. Some played simple games, others continued crying, all while the nanite AI completed its infiltration of the ship's systems. Through their quantum transmitters, they could sense humanity's response force approaching through subspace, using technological capabilities that Earth had kept hidden for decades. 16 hours into their captivity, Lily received the signal they had been waiting for. The AI was in position, having thoroughly compromised the Nightweaver's systems while remaining undetected. Throughout the ship, other captured children began moving into their predetermined positions, ready to play their part in humanity's response. Begin Operation Nightfall. Lily vocalized, the command triggering a cascade of pre-programmed responses from their hidden assets. In the next few hours, the Void Stalkers would learn the true meaning of human ingenuity, and why taking their children was a fatal mistake. As emergency lighting suddenly flooded the cell block, Krelvor rushed to check the surveillance feeds. The human children were still in their cells, still appearing helpless and afraid. He failed to notice the subtle smile on Lily's face as she watched the guards' growing panic. The trap was about to spring, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. Fleet Admiral Harrison stood aboard the Shadow Fleet's flagship, the ESS Nemesis, as it emerged from quantum space. The vessel, like the rest of humanity's true military force, represented technology that officially didn't exist. Its hull, composed of dark matter alloys, absorbed all scanning attempts. Its quantum drive could navigate dimensions that other species hadn't even theorized existed. Status report on the quantum trail, Harrison commanded, his weathered face illuminated by holographic displays showing the crimson void's swirling masses. Signal from the children's biomarkers is strong, sir, Lieutenant Commander Samira Patel responded, her fingers dancing over quantum-encrypted controls. The Void Stalkers are exactly where we predicted. They always use the same hiding spots. The Nemesis bridge crew worked with practiced precision. To the outside galaxy, humanity appeared to be a young, relatively primitive spacefaring species. The truth was far different. For a century, Earth had maintained this deception, hiding their true capabilities behind a facade of basic technology. All ships broadcast on encrypted quantum band, Harrison ordered. Operation Nemesis is entering Phase 2. Stealth systems at maximum. Prepare for dimensional shift. Across the void, 40 warships acknowledged. The Shadow Fleet represented humanity's ultimate insurance policy, a force equipped with technology so advanced that most species would consider it impossible. They had spent decades preparing for scenarios exactly like this one. Inside the Crimson Void, High Commander Zexlar received reports of unusual energy readings. Probably just nebula disruptions, he dismissed, mandibles clicking in amusement. No species has sensors that can penetrate these radiation fields. His confidence was shattered moments later when alarms blared throughout the Nightweaver. High Commander. His sensor officer called out in panic. Multiple ships appearing out of nowhere. They're not using any known form of FTL travel. On the Nemesis, Harrison watched as the fleet executed a perfect dimensional pincer movement. Status of the children's operation. Lily Wright reports all systems go. Samira confirmed. The Nanite AI has full control of their internal networks. They're ready on your mark. Harrison allowed himself a grim smile. Send the signal. Let's show these Void Stalkers why humanity hid its true strength for so long. Aboard the Nightweaver, Lily received the confirmation through her quantum transmitter. Everyone ready. She vocalized to the other children. Their responses came back instantly. They had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. The Nanite AI executed its commands with precision. Throughout the Void Stalker vessel, systems began failing in cascading sequence. Shield generators reversed polarity, weapon systems locked down, and artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, everywhere except in the cells holding the children. Krelvor and his guards suddenly found themselves floating helplessly as the children's cell barriers deactivated. Their neural network, the pride of Void Stalker technology, broadcast only static as the Nanite AI rewrote its core protocols. This is Fleet Admiral Harrison to the Void Stalker vessel. The transmission cut through their compromised communications. Your ship is now under our control. Your neural network belongs to us. Your weapons are disabled. Surrender, and we may let your species survive this encounter. Zexlar watched in horror as his tactical displays showed the true extent of their situation. The human vessels had surrounded them in three-dimensional space, using technology that shouldn't exist. Their sensors revealed weapons that operated on principles his species had never encountered. "Impossible," he hissed. "They're primitives. They'd barely have FTL capability." Actually, Lily's voice came through their own command system. "That's what we wanted you to think. Humanity learned long ago that appearing weak was the best way to identify our true enemies." Throughout the ship, the captured children were now free and moving with military precision. Each one carried within them enough advanced technology to subjugate a small fleet. The frightened tears and confused looks had vanished, replaced by the focused expressions of trained operatives. The Shadow Fleet tightened its formation around the Nightweaver. On the Nemesis's bridge, Harrison prepared to demonstrate exactly why humanity had maintained their deception for so long. The Void Stalkers were about to learn that they hadn't captured helpless children. They had triggered humanity's trap card, and the consequences would reshape galactic politics forever. "All ships, prepare primary weapons," Harrison commanded. "Let's show them what humanity's children are really worth defending." The Crimson Void lit up with energy signatures that defied known physics as humanity's most advanced fleet prepared to deliver its message. The age of hiding their true capabilities was over, and the galaxy was about to learn why taking human children was considered a terminal mistake. Inside the Nightweaver, chaos reigned as the Void Stalkers discovered that their prisoners had become their jailers. Lily Wright stood in the ship's main security center, surrounded by floating, helpless guards as she accessed their neural network through the Nanite Eyes interface. "All sectors secured," she reported through her quantum link. "Rhea has control of their engine core, Marcus has locked down their weapons, and the twins have their shield generators in a feedback loop. We're ready for extraction." The children moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, their years of training evident in every action. What had appeared to be games and stories during their childhood had actually been complex military protocols, disguised as entertainment, but designed for exactly this scenario. On the Nemesis's bridge, Fleet Admiral Harrison watched the tactical display with satisfaction. "Begin Phase 3, he ordered. "Show them what happens when you threaten human children." The Shadow Fleet's ships began to shift, their dark matter hulls rippling as they activated technology that the Void Stalkers had believed impossible. Quantum-locked weapons platforms emerged from dimensional pockets, while gravity manipulation fields far beyond known science contained the Nightweaver in an unbreakable grip. High Commander Zexalar, now secured in his own brig by the children he had thought helpless, watched through security feeds as his mighty ship became a prisoner itself. "What are you?" he demanded of Lily as she appeared on his cell's communication screen. "We're humanity's insurance policy," she replied, her voice carrying none of the fear he had expected from a child. "Every human colony child undergoes the training. Every one of us carries enough advanced technology in our bodies to disable a capital ship. You didn't capture victims, High Commander. You triggered a trap centuries in the making." The Shadow Fleet's true capabilities were now on full display. Ships phase shifted through solid matter, weapons fired through dimensions the Void Stalkers couldn't perceive, and quantum algorithms that made their most advanced AI look primitive began systematically stripping away every secret their species had kept. "This is why we maintain the deception." Harrison's voice boomed through the compromised neural network. "Every species that saw our apparent weakness and chose to prey on us revealed themselves as threats. Your attempt to take our children just gave us justification to demonstrate why we've been feared in legends that predate your civilization." Throughout the Crimson Void, hidden quantum beacons activated, revealing a network of surveillance and military installations that had been watching the Void Stalkers for decades. Their supposedly secret base wasn't just compromised. It had been under human observation since before they claimed the nebula as their territory. Aboard the Nightweaver, the children began the final phase of their operation. The Nanite AI had completely mapped the Void Stalker neural network, providing humanity with access to their entire species' knowledge base. Every military secret, every hidden outpost, Every piece of technology they had developed was now being analyzed and countered. "Start the upload," Lively commanded. The quantum transmitters embedded in the children's bodies began broadcasting data directly to the Shadow Fleet. In less than an hour, humanity would know more about the Void Stalkers than they knew about themselves. The revelation hit Zexlard like a physical blow. His species had prided themselves on their technological superiority, their mastery of neural networks, their advanced understanding of quantum mechanics. But here were humans, supposedly primitive humans, demonstrating mastery of sciences his people hadn't even theorized. The children, he finally understood, mandibles trembling. They were the test. Anyone who would harm them proves themselves too dangerous to be allowed to continue unchecked. Harrison finished. Humanity has hidden in plain sight, watching, waiting to see which species would reveal themselves as threats to our young. Congratulations, High Commander. Your species just failed the galaxy's most important test. The Shadow Fleet's weapons remained trained on the Nightweaver, each capable of ending the threat permanently. But humanity had plans that went far beyond simple destruction. The Void Stalkers were about to become an object lesson to the galaxy, a demonstration of what happened when someone underestimated humanity's preparation and resolve. As the children completed their mission and prepared for extraction, Lily took one last look at the fallen High Commander. "Remember this," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of human planning. "We're not just protecting our children. We're protecting the galaxy from anyone who would prey on the innocent. Today, that means you." The Shadow Fleet began its final maneuvers, preparing to deliver a message that would reshape galactic politics forever. The age of humanity hiding its true nature was over, and the galaxy was about to learn why some legends are better left untested. 1 week after the Crimson Void incident, representatives from every major galactic species gathered at the Interstellar Council's emergency session. The massive chamber fell silent as Fleet Admiral Harrison stepped onto the central platform, his dress uniform adorned with insignias that none of the assembled delegates had ever seen before. "For centuries," he began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "humanity has maintained a carefully crafted illusion of technological inferiority. We watched as species after species revealed their true nature through their reactions to our apparent weakness. The Void Stalkers simply made the final mistake. They targeted our children." Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing footage from the Shadow Fleet's operation. Advanced warships performing maneuvers that defied known physics, weapons that bent reality itself, and children executing military operations with precision that shocked the assembled diplomats. In the secure diplomatic wing of the station, Lily Wright and her fellow young operatives sat in an observation room, no longer pretending to be simple colony children. Their quantum implants interfaced directly with the station's systems, monitoring every reaction, every whispered conversation among the alien delegates. "The Void Stalker's neural network has been completely decoded," Harrison continued. "We now have access to their entire military infrastructure, their hidden bases, and their technological databases. But more importantly, we have proof of every species that has collaborated with them in their raids on primitive worlds." The chamber erupted in nervous whispers as several delegates suddenly found themselves under the scrutiny of humanity's unveiled surveillance systems. The children's quantum transmitters had uploaded more than just Void Stalker data. They had captured evidence of a vast network of species who preyed on those they considered technologically inferior. On display screens throughout the chamber, the true extent of humanity's technological advancement became clear. The Shadow Fleet's capabilities weren't just decades ahead of known science. They represented technological paths that other species hadn't even conceived possible. "Humanity's children have never been defenseless," Harrison explained, gesturing to Lily and her companions in the observation deck. "Every human colony child carries within them enough advanced technology to disable a capital ship. Every tear, every drop of blood, every exhaled breath contains nanites capable of compromising your most secure systems. We are not primitive. We were never primitive." The Interstellar Council's premier, a being of pure energy, moved forward. Why reveal this now? Why maintain the deception for so long? Because now we know who our real enemies are. Lily's voice came through the chamber's speakers, clear and confident. Every species that chose to prey on those they thought weaker has revealed themselves. The Void Stalkers were just the catalyst we needed to justify this revelation. Across the galaxy, human ships emerged from dimensional shadows near key military installations of implicated species. The message was clear. Humanity had been watching, waiting, and preparing for this moment for generations. As of this moment, Harrison declared, humanity is establishing a new interstellar protection protocol. Any species that preys on those they consider inferior will face immediate consequences. The age of hiding our capabilities is over. The age of accountability begins now. In the following days, the galaxy witnessed a fundamental shift in power. The Void Stalkers, their empire built on preying on the seemingly weak, found themselves under the constant surveillance of technology they couldn't even detect. Other predatory species scrambled to change their policies as humanity's hidden network of operatives and technology revealed itself. 1 month later, Lily stood with her mother, Commander Wright, watching the sunset from their colony home. The Void Stalker ships that had once threatened their world now orbited as stripped hulks, monuments to the price of underestimating humanity. "Do you think they'll ever understand?" Lily asked, her quantum implants processing data from across the galaxy even as she spoke. That the weakest-looking human child carries within them the power to bring down an empire. Commander Wright smiled. They understand now. And more importantly, they understand why we hidden these capabilities for so long. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity's apparent technological weakness had been the greatest deception in interstellar history, a test to see which species would reveal themselves as predators. The children they had thought helpless were actually the triggers of a trap centuries in the making. In the end, taking human children hadn't just been the Void Stalkers' worst mistake. It had been the catalyst that revealed humanity's true role in the galaxy. Protectors of the truly defenseless, watchers for signs of predatory behavior, and maintainers of a new order where strength was measured not by who you could dominate, but by who you chose to protect. As night fell on Nova Haven, quantum signals pulsed through subspace, carrying the reports of hundreds of other children like Lily, humanity's hidden guardians scattered across the stars, ensuring that no species would ever again mistake apparent weakness for vulnerability, or children for easy prey.